Eclipse. The Twilight Saga #3 by Stephenie Meyer. Turmoil within. Bella sat on the edge of her bed, the graduation cap in her hands, feeling like a burden she wasn't sure she wanted to bear. Her room, painted a soft shade of lavender, felt stifling, the walls closing in with memories. Posters of bands she once loved now felt like relics of a past life, and photos of friends she'd grown apart from only added to her sense of isolation. The clock ticked relentlessly, a reminder that time was passing and decisions had to be made. A soft knock interrupted her brooding. "Bella, can we talk?" Charlie's voice was laced with concern. "Come in, Dad." Bella tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear, steeling herself for the conversation she knew was coming. Charlie entered, his sheriff's badge catching the light, a reminder of his unwavering dedication to their small town. He sat beside her, his expression filled with a mixture of worry and understanding. "Bells, I know this whole vampire situation is a lot to handle, but you can't forget about your other friends, especially Jacob." Bella's heart twisted at the mention of Jacob. She knew her dad was right. Their once strong father-daughter bond had taken a hit in the wake of Edward's return and her subsequent immersion into his vampire world. "I know, Dad. It's just complicated." Charlie's brow furrowed, his eyes reflecting the weight of his concern. "Life is complicated, kiddo, but Jacob has been there for you through thick and thin. Don't let this supernatural mess cloud your judgment. He's family." Bella's throat tightened as she nodded. "I miss him too, Bells. He's my nephew, and I know he's got a big heart under all that wolfishness." Charlie's attempt at a joke fell flat, but Bella appreciated the effort. "I'll talk to him, Dad. I know I've been distant, but I need to explain things to Jacob. Help him understand why I've made the choices I have." Bella's voice held a newfound determination. Charlie squeezed her hand. "That's my girl. Just remember, you don't have to face this alone. Lean on those who love you, even if it's messy and complicated." The next day, Bella found herself driving to La Push, the flyers from the store fluttering in the back of her truck. The sea air whipped through her hair as she approached Jacob's house, her heart pounding with anticipation and nerves. Jacob answered the door, his face lighting up with a mixture of surprise and joy at the sight of her. "Bella!" "Hey, Jake," she said softly. "We need to talk." Her voice was steady, but her insides churned with turmoil. They made their way to their special spot on the beach, where weathered driftwood logs bore witness to countless shared confidences. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore provided a soothing backdrop to their conversation. "Jacob, I'm so torn," Bella confessed, her eyes pleading with him to understand. "I love Edward, but I can't bear the thought of losing you. You're my best friend, my rock." Jacob's face contorted with a mix of emotions, pain, loyalty, and a hint of something that might have been jealousy. "Bella, I'm always here for you, but it kills me to see you with him. It feels like I'm losing you to a world I can't be a part of." Bella reached out, taking his hand in hers. "I know, and I'm sorry. It's just that Edward offers me a future, an immortal life together. It's terrifying and exciting all at once." Jacob's grip tightened on hers. "But at what cost, Bella? You know the dangers of his world, the vampires and their enemies. It's a constant battle. Are you sure you want to give up your humanity for that?" Bella bit her lip, her eyes searching his. "I'm not sure about anything anymore, except that I need you in my life, Jake. You're my anchor." Jacob's expression softened and he pulled her into a hug. "We'll figure it out together, Bells. We always do." As they sat there, the sun dipping below the horizon, Bella felt a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. Maybe she could find a way to balance both worlds, the vampire and the werewolf, the immortal and the mortal. But as the shadows lengthened on the sand, she knew that the coming days would test her resolve. Choices would have to be made, and the path she chose would forever alter her destiny. A cautionary tale. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the Cullen household, where Bella found herself after parting ways with Jacob. The transition from the muddy roads of La Push to the serene living room was abrupt, yet it carried the weight of her unresolved feelings. Edward's cool touch was a silent vow, while Jacob's lingering warmth hinted at a different path. One not taken. Being a vampire is not the storybook ending some imagine. Rosalie's voice broke the silence, her gaze lost to memories. I had dreams of a family, growing old, but I was robbed of that future. Now, I exist in a perpetual night, haunted by a yearning for the human connections I once took for granted. Bella absorbed Rosalie's words, feeling the gravity of her own choice. Edward's hand tightened around hers, a wordless support. Jacob's presence, though distant, was a reminder of the life she was leaving behind. Rosalie's confession laid bare the stark reality of immortality, the loss of human experiences and the eternal longing for what could no longer be. Bella's heart ached with understanding, her resolve shaken yet steadfast. I hear you, Rosalie, Bella whispered, her voice trembling with the enormity of her decision. It's a daunting choice, but I'm ready to face the sacrifices. Rosalie offered a faint smile, acknowledging the sincerity in Bella's eyes. And that's the strength you'll need, she said softly. The room, bathed in the fading light, seemed to hold its breath as Bella contemplated her future. A future of immortality, with all its gifts and curses. She knew the path she would choose, fraught with unknowns, but it was hers to walk. With a deep breath, she looked towards Edward, ready to embrace the life that awaited her, no matter the cost. Racing against time. Racing against time. Bella's heart raced as she stared at the calendar, her eyes fixed on the graduation date that was now just 1 week away. She felt like time had slipped away from her, leaving her unprepared and overwhelmed. The thought of saying goodbye to her loved ones and transitioning into immortality with Edward terrified her. What am I doing? Bella muttered to herself, feeling a wave of panic wash over her. She knew what she wanted, but the unknown future beyond being human scared her. Just then, Alice's vision flashed in her mind. Edward about to reveal himself as a vampire to the humans in the Volturi's presence, breaking their laws and risking his life. Bella's heart skipped a beat as she realized the urgency of the situation. Without hesitation, Bella grabbed her phone and booked a private jet to Italy. She knew it was the fastest way to reach Volterra before Edward made a fatal mistake. As she boarded the plane, Bella felt a mix of emotions. Anxiety about what lay ahead, determination to save Edward, and a hint of excitement at the prospect of exploring a new country. The flight attendants offered her a warm smile as she settled into her seat. Welcome aboard, Miss Swan. We'll have you in Florence in no time. Bella nodded, trying to calm her racing thoughts. As the plane took off, Bella gazed out the window, watching the clouds drift by. She couldn't believe how quickly her life had changed. 1 minute she was worrying about graduation, the next she was flying to Italy to save the love of her life. After what felt like an eternity, the plane landed in Florence. Bella rushed through customs and hailed a taxi. Volterra, per favore, she said to the driver, who nodded and sped off into the night. As they drove through the winding roads of Tuscany, Bella's anxiety grew. She knew every minute counted. When they finally arrived in La Push, Bella spotted Jacob standing in the doorway, his face blank with shock. Jacob, Bella exclaimed, relief washing over her. Bella, you're here, Jacob replied, his expression transforming into a wide smile. I need your help, Bella said urgently, pulling him into a tight hug. Edward's in trouble. He thinks I'm dead, and he's going to provoke the Volturi into killing him. Jacob's expression turned serious, and he nodded quickly. Let's go. Together they set off towards Volterra in Jacob's car. Complicated relationships. Bella sat on the edge of her bed, the room silent except for the soft tapping of rain against the window. She glanced at the 2 photographs on her dresser, each capturing a moment frozen in time. A soft knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Bella, can I come in?" It was Jacob's voice. "Sure, Jake," she replied. Jacob entered, his eyes searching hers. "Bella, we need to talk," he said. Bella nodded, a sense of urgency within her. "I know, Jake. There's so much at stake." Jacob sat beside her, his presence a comfort. "You're not alone in this," he assured her. "We'll face what comes together." Bella felt the weight of the decisions before her, knowing the path she chose would change everything. As the rain's rhythm against the glass intensified, so did the resolve in Bella's heart. She stood up, facing Jacob with a newfound determination. "We have to act now, Jacob. There's no time to lose," she declared. Jacob nodded, his expression mirroring her own seriousness. "I'm with you, Bella. Let's do this," he said, standing up to join her. Together, they left the room, ready to confront whatever awaited them, united by a shared purpose and an unspoken promise to protect each other. The chapter closes as they step into the storm, their silhouettes merging with the night. United against a common enemy. The dense forest was eerily silent as Bella and Edward stood side by side, the tension between them palpable. They were not alone. The Cullens and the werewolves formed a circle around them. The air was thick with the scent of pine and barely restrained aggression. Carlyle stepped forward, his voice calm and authoritative. "We must put aside our differences," he said, addressing both the vampires and the werewolves. "The threat we face does not discriminate between vampire and werewolf. We stand together, or we fall separate." Sam, the werewolf leader, nodded in agreement. "Our strength lies in unity," he growled. "For the sake of our lands and our people, we will cooperate." Bella watched as Jasper demonstrated combat techniques, his movements precise and graceful. The werewolves watched intently, their eyes reflecting a mix of respect and wariness. Edward stood protectively close to Bella. Suddenly, Alice gasped, her eyes unfocused as a vision overtook her. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice laced with urgency. "The newborns, led by Victoria. They're closer than we thought." Edward's hand found Bella's, squeezing it tightly. "We'll be ready for them," he promised. The meeting continued, with Carlyle and Sam discussing strategies and coordinating their efforts. Bella listened intently, her mind racing with the implications of their alliance. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she also knew it was necessary. As the sun began to set, the meeting drew to a close. The Cullens and the werewolves parted ways. Edward and Bella walked hand in hand, the silence between them comfortable. "I'm proud of you, Bella," Edward said, breaking the silence. "You're braver than you think." Bella smiled, feeling a sense of determination wash over her. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect our family, Edward, and our friends." Edward's eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled. "I know you will, Bella, and I'll be right by your side every step of the way." As they walked, Bella shivered despite the warmth of the summer evening. She knew they still had a long way to go, but with Edward by her side, she felt a sense of hope. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, united against a common enemy. Love triangle intensifies. The air was thick with tension as Bella, Edward, and Jacob stood in the dark forest. They had been strategizing for hours, preparing for what was to come. Suddenly, the silence was broken by Jacob's tender voice. "Bella, I need to tell you something," he said, his eyes locked on hers. "I love you. I've loved you for a long time, but I never thought I'd have the chance to tell you." Bella's heart skipped a beat as she took in Jacob's words. She felt a pang of guilt for not realizing the depth of his feelings sooner. Jacob, I care about you too, she said softly, trying to be honest without hurting him further. But Jacob wasn't deterred. I know you love Edward, Bella, and I understand if you can't love me back, but I had to tell you how I feel. I want you to be happy, even if it's not with me. Edward's eyes narrowed slightly at Jacob's words, but he remained silent, letting Bella process her emotions. I appreciate your honesty, Jacob, Bella said, her voice barely above a whisper, but my heart belongs to Edward. The pain in Jacob's eyes was palpable as he nodded slowly. I understand, he said, his voice cracking. The atmosphere was heavy with emotion as the three of them stood there, the only sound being the distant rumble of thunder. I think we should head back to the campsite, Edward suggested, finally breaking the silence. As they made their way through the forest, Bella couldn't help but feel torn between her love for Edward and her growing feelings for Jacob. She knew she had to make a choice soon, but her heart was screaming for her to find a way to keep both of them in her life. At the campsite, Alice was waiting anxiously, her eyes scanning their faces for signs of trouble. What happened? She asked, sensing the tension. It's just complicated, Bella replied, feeling overwhelmed. Alice nodded sympathetically. We'll figure it out together, Bella. But as they settled in for the night, Bella couldn't shake off the feeling that her heart was about to get ripped apart. As the night deepened, the cold seeped into their bones, and the wind howled around the tent. Bella lay awake, her thoughts a whirlwind as fierce as the storm outside. Edward's steady breathing beside her was a small comfort, but her mind kept drifting to Jacob, alone in the darkness. The weight of her decision pressed down on her, and she knew that come morning, the consequences of her choice would change everything. Heartbreak and Resolution. Bella stood before Jacob, the weight of her decision heavy on her heart. She knew her choice caused him pain, and she felt torn between her love for him and her soulmate, Edward. Jacob's sadness was palpable, but he understood the depth of Bella's connection with Edward. The Cullens, meanwhile, uncovered Riley's manipulation of the newborn vampires, revealing Victoria's hand in the chaos. They dealt with the situation, and the newborn army was disbanded. Bella grappled with her emotions, feeling the weight of her choice. She knew she had made the right decision, choosing her soulmate Edward, but the pain she caused Jacob left a mark. With the newborn threat neutralized, the Cullens' focus shifted back to the delicate dynamics within their own circle. The air was thick with unspoken thoughts and the weight of recent events. Bella, though resolute in her love for Edward, carried the burden of Jacob's heartache. It was a silent testament to the complex web of relationships that bound them all. The story continued to weave its intricate patterns, with each character bracing for the ripples of choices made and paths taken. Bella's journey was far from over, but she stood steadfast, surrounded by those who would walk with her into the unknown. New beginnings. Bella felt a sense of relief as she walked through the doors of the Cullen home. She could finally breathe. Alice, I'm so glad I caught you, Bella said, finding her friend in the living room surrounded by fabric swatches and wedding magazines. I wanted to talk to you about the guest list. I know we've discussed having a small, intimate wedding. But Alice looked up from her pile of fabric samples, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Of course, we'll include the werewolf. Jacob has been such an important part of your life, and we want to honor that. It's only right that they be there to celebrate with us. Now. As Bella chatted with Alice about the wedding plans, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. The decision to choose Edward was the right one. Bella, my love, how are you feeling? Edward asked, entering the room and wrapping his arms around her waist. Good, Bella replied, leaning into his embrace. Really good, actually. I was just telling Alice that I want the werewolves included in the guest list. Jacob has been a good friend to me, and we'll make sure he's welcome at the wedding. Edward's expression softened. I understand and I support your decision. Jacob has been a good friend to you, and we'll make sure he's welcome at the wedding." As the days passed, Bella threw herself into the wedding preparations. She and Alice poured over dresses, flowers, and music selections, creating a vision of elegance and romance. One afternoon, as Bella was trying on dresses at the boutique, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror and paused. The dress she was wearing was simple yet exquisite, with vintage lace and a flowing skirt. It was then that it truly hit her. She was getting married. "Oh, Bella, you look absolutely stunning," Alice exclaimed, clapping her hands together in delight. "This dress is perfect for you. It's timeless and elegant, just like you." Bella smiled, feeling a rush of happiness. "Thank you, Alice. I can't wait to see Edward's reaction when he sees me in this." As the wedding day drew closer, Bella found herself thinking of her father, Charlie. She knew that including him in the wedding plans would be challenging, given the secret nature of her relationship with Edward, but she was determined to find a way. "Alice, I want my dad to be there." Alice nodded with a reassuring smile. "We'll find a way to include Charlie without revealing too much. He'll be there to walk you down the aisle, Bella. I promise." Bella's heart swelled with gratitude, knowing that Alice would do everything in her power to make the day special, not just for her and Edward, but for everyone they loved.